And welcome to the Capitalized Life and Retirement Show. I'm your host, Matthew Johnson, president and owner of Johnson Wealth and Income Management, a retirement income source located in Clear Lake, Humboldt, and Ankeny, Iowa, serving clients in northern Iowa and southern Minnesota. Well, how are you today? I hope you're doing well, taking a little bit of time for yourself. Today, we're going to be discussing the power of PAR. PAR. This may be a term that you haven't heard before. Maybe you've heard it, but it's been a while, and maybe that term has kind of escaped your memory as to what it means. But today we're going to be kind of unboxing and going back to some of the more basic fundamentals of investing. And we're going to be discovering what is it about fixed income that is so very vital and important, and why it's so sought after by retirees and those that want income and those that are covertly looking for capital gains. Now, if you're brand new to this show, whether you're watching or you're listening, just a big warm welcome to you. If you've been looking for a place that discuss what financial relevant topics there are to discuss and kind of help apply some of those things that can be a little bit more difficult, a little bit more challenging, and apply them in such a way that it's basic, it's easy to understand, it's something that you can apply to your own unique set of circumstances. You can take what you need and you can utilize it. Well, I think you've come to the right place. The goal as a fiduciary is to make certain that we're educating our clients and the public in general on how to become more successful. And as much as I'd love to say that it's all about the accumulation, my friends, the accumulation is the easy part. It is the distribution part that's kind of the dangerous part. It's the distribution part that is the tricky part. And it's the part where you essentially have to make certain you're doing things correctly so as to make certain that you don't run out of money before you run out of life. And if that's been a concern of yours, if that's something that's been on your mind, if you're kind of worried about that in the background, then there is no better time than for you right now to educate yourself. I encourage you to go to our website, johnsonwim.com, where there's a wealth of information there. There's white papers to help educate you on financially relevant topics. There's past radio shows. There's past YouTube videos that I've done. You can even pick up a copy of my book, this one right behind me here, The Capitalized Retirement. And this is available at all major book resellers. It's something that you can put your hands on. You can highlight it, underline it, dog-ear it. You can do anything you want with that book and go back and read it and reread it and apply principles that are very practical and very timeless in their practicality to your unique financial situation. So let's go to the topic at hand. Par value, the power of par. Why is par? What is the big deal about it? Why is it a big deal? Why is it powerful? Well, first and foremost, we have to remember that when it comes to investing, we're investing for either an unknown return, and that could be something like buying a stock. It could be buying an index fund, an ETF fund. It could be buying a piece of speculative real estate. It could be investing in a startup business. All of those things have the potential. They have the capability of giving me a return on my investment. But it is an unknown return. I don't know if I'm going to make money. I don't know how much money I'm going to make. I don't know how long it's going to take. If I end up making money, I might be losing it. I might be giving it back and then having to wait for the recovery. It's a lot of uncertainty, and it doesn't make it wrong. It may make it somewhat less ideal for you when you're in the distribution stage. This is the reason why, as a person gets older, they get closer to retirement, they want to reduce their risk naturally because they just simply don't have the runway. They don't have the ability of recovering if they lose big. But the reality is that there's also ways for us to invest for known returns. What is a known return? Well, a known return could be things like rental income. It could be things like contractual interest. It could be things like contractual dividends. And today we're going to be discussing the power of par. And par is something that really only applies to a couple of different instruments that I'm aware of as an advisor that you could be using even right now, today, in your brokerage account in order to be able to give you greater peace of mind. Not only that, but par value, if done correctly, is going to give you the opportunity of also getting capital gains, and doing so in such a way that it's almost painless. It's almost silly how simple and easy it is to prepare and get capital gains. So let's get into it. First and foremost, we need to discuss one of the more basic instruments that exist within the world of conservative investing. Now, this is a fixed income instrument. It's something that you hear me discuss multiple times throughout the course of these various shows and podcasts, and that is the individual bond. Now, whether we're discussing something like a corporate bond, we're discussing something like a municipal bond, we're discussing something like a government bond, par values are going to apply to each of those things. But for today's demonstration or discussion, we're just simply going to focus on the corporate bond. So we want to remember that a corporate bond is a contract. Let's say that I came to you and I said, hey, listen, I really need $1,000. Would you lend me $1,000? And you think about it a while and you're like, well, you're a nice guy. You've got a great reputation, but I really don't know you. I think I would feel better if we had some sort of a contract. And I say, well, what do you have in mind? Well, let's draft this contract that says that I lent you $1,000. It says that you have to pay me 5% interest. And it says by December 31st of 2028, you have to have paid me all of my money back. We'll take it down to the bank. We'll get it signed. We'll get it notarized. You'll get a copy. I'll get a copy. Now, if that's reasonable and it would be to me, and it's reasonable and it makes you feel better lending me $1,000, then this is a good deal. It's good for you, the lender. It's good for me, the lendee. And it spells out all the terms and conditions of what we need to be doing for each other. Now, in this particular case, what I just described to you is something that we can do, you and I, transactionally between each other. But guess what? What I also described was essentially a bond. The only difference is that in this case, instead of taking and lending $1,000 to an individual like myself, what you're doing now is you're lending $1,000 to a corporation. And let me ask you a question. Who do you think would be more creditworthy? Would it be me or would it be AT&T? No, you don't have to answer that question, but the reality is that of course AT&T is going to be more creditworthy. Now, let's move on. Let's continue on this path discussing par. So what is par? Well, when it comes to a bond, generally speaking, par is going to be the value of that bond. It is a preset value, and bonds start their life at $1,000. They end their life at $1,000. The reality here is that what I want to do is I want to know that when I'm putting my money into the purchase of this bond, that I'm going to not only make interest on this bond, I'm going to get paid interest every single year, but I want to know that I'm going to get my money back. And you see, that's the beauty of a par. You see, not only does a bond start its life at $1,000 and it matures at $1,000, but because we know this is something that now gives us a bit of an edge. When you're investing in known return type instruments, fixed income things like bonds and preferreds, well, you want to apply one rule time and time and time again. And that's the rule of buying it right. What this means to us is we want to be able to buy a good quality bond, of course, from a good quality corporation that's paying us a good quality interest rate on the bond that we want to buy. But we want to pay as little for this bond as is possible. And you see, this has been all the rage when we think about what was happening in 2023 and 2022, 2023, and even into 2024, with the Federal Reserve raising interest rates 11 times. I encouraged you time and time and time again that was the very sweetest time to be buying fixed income. Why? Because when interest rates go up, fixed income falls. And you see, no one that I'm aware of hates buying things when they're on sale. I have never known a person that felt regretful that buying anything, I don't care if it was a tool, a pair of shoes, a handbag, whatever it was, that they felt bad when they were able to buy it on sale. So let's do a little bit of math. Let's say, knowing that we know that a par is $1,000, that a bond starts at $1,000, it matures and pays back $1,000 at maturity. Let's say that we can buy this bond for $800. Now, what that means to us, well, it means a whole lot. What it means is that not only did I pay less for the bond, so potentially I can buy more bonds, it also means that I'm going to get a higher yield. So let me give you an example. Mathematically, we know that bonds, being contracts, have spelled out terms and conditions. We know that if a bond says it has a coupon of 5%, well, 5 times 1,000 is going to be 50. And what that means is that this bond every single year is going to pay me $50 or 5% on my money. But here's the deal. If I did not pay $1,000, rather I bought it for $800, well, let's do a little bit of math. Let's just take our calculators and let's take $50. Let's divide that into $800. And what we find out is we're not making 5%. No, my friends, we're making 6.25%. That's a pretty decent yield. And that's going to be contractually locked in for us as a bond buyer, assuming we paid $800 for this bond. But wait, this is like the Ginsu knife commercial. Remember, the title of today's program was The Power of Par. And what we want to remember is not only the course and the duration of the interest rate that we're getting paid based upon what we paid for our bond, but let's not forget maturity. Because, my friend, that's where the magic happens. You remember how earlier in today's program I discussed you can set yourself up for capital gains contractually, and it's so silly. It's so simple. It's unbelievable. Well, what is a par? It is the value that the bond matures at. And so what this means to me is if I did a good job of buying, if I bought this bond for $800, but I hold it to maturity, not only did I get paid income every single year that I own this bond, that's income I can spend, income I can reinvest, income I can do whatever I want with, but I bought it for $800, and when it matures, I get back $1,000. Now, let me just ask you a question. You're a reasonable individual. If I said, listen, you lend me $800 and I will give you back $1,000, do you think that that's a good deal? And let's say that you could get that back in, say, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. Would that be a good deal to you? The answer is absolutely. You don't even have to think about it. Giving me $800, getting $1,000 in return, that's a 25% capital gain. And you see, my friends, that is one of the most beautiful things about fixed income. Not only is fixed income safer because it's contractual, not only does fixed income create a predictable, steady, reliable source of income for you so that you can have the income to support the lifestyle you want and do all the fun things that you want to do, but it gives you predictability, not only on the front end, not only in the middle, but on the far end. And it gives you an opportunity to know that if you buy it, or if you're having an advisor, a fiduciary like ourselves, buy it for you, that we're focusing on buying things at a discount. Why? So that when they mature, or if they get called away, you're in a position of power. You're in a position of capital gains. And who doesn't want to be in that? Now, here's the thing. Is the bond the only kid on the block? Is the bond the only special thing within the fixed income world that does this? And the answer is absolutely not. You see, preferred stocks do the exact same thing. They are a fixed income instrument. They have a par value, albeit their par value is very small. It's not $1,000, it's $25. But my friends, the math is still the same. When we're able to buy preferreds for less than what their par value is, I'm setting you up so that, number one, you can buy more of them because they're less expensive. You can get a higher yield, as we've already done the math on. And it sets you up that if that particular corporation calls away that preferred, or if it does mature, you are going to be in a position of gain. You're going to get a capital gain. So, when it comes to things like fixed income, man, I know the industry, especially the growth side of the financial services world, would have you to believe that fixed income is just so boring. It's like watching paint dry. It's just so blasé. Who would ever want fixed income? But I don't know. Friends. If I've got $1 million producing $60,000 of income, and I can pick up an extra $5,000 a month and not even take a lot of big risks doing it, and it can be predictable and repeatable, and it can pay me every single month, and not only that, I can do it in such a way where if some of those things mature, if they get called away, I'm going to make money on the deal. Well, sign me up, and sign me up every single day. I want that sort of peace of mind. I want that sort of predictability. Why? Not because I'm not a risk taker. I got plenty of money in things like stocks, index funds, ETFs, things that provide me an unpredictable, an unknown rate of return. But guess what? That's going to be a small percentage of my overall retirement savings. You see, that used to be a big part of my retirement savings when I was on the accumulation stage of my life. But as I get older, I get closer to retirement, my runway's getting shorter. I don't want to be risking the same percentage of my money as I used to. Why? Because I simply don't have the years in front of me to wait for it to come back. And I don't want to put my retirement life on hold while Wall Street's trying to sort itself out. I want to be able to take my money that I've worked hard to save, turn it into an income-generating machine, and enjoy the income. Sit back, relax on that beach, do what I want to do, when I want to do it, with whom I want to do it with, and know that my income is going to be consistent, like the sun rising in the east and setting in the west. My friends, I'm Matthew Johnson. Thank you so much for listening and watching. And remember, it's up to you to make today a great day.